Ba, 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 ba. What is happening, folks? Excuse me. Welcome to the Go Grab That Day podcast. Today is a fight recap, of course. Before we get into it, I hope everyone is well. As always, appreciate the support on the platforms and the podcast and the channel and everything else that we have. Like I always say, will you please keep supporting us, keep liking the videos, sharing the videos, watching the videos, most importantly. And for those of you that haven't, please subscribe to the channel. Makes such a big difference. But yeah, hope everybody's doing okay. Hope you're all staying sane. Hope you're all enjoying life. Yeah, so let's get into it. Not much other news. Oh yeah, check out our affiliates. Sorry, as I always say. Mystique jerseys. Go check out. We have a link in the bio. Great for gifts and stuff like that, as I've said a million times before. And check out PPT Fitness and Nutrition. We also have a link in our Instagram bio. For the Mystique jerseys, we have the promo code Go Grab That Day, all caps, for a percentage off. Well worth it. Go check them out. And of course, for your fitness and nutrition needs, check out PPT Nutrition. We have one of their programs linked in the bio. There's heaps of other programs. They're running all sorts of different challenges and programs every few months. We just have one of them linked just to give you an idea of how they work. But by all means, go check out their page and all the different things they're doing. Peter is brilliant, that runs the company. I can't recommend them enough, so go check them out, guys. Anyway, let's talk about some violence. I have my notes here. So first off, we had somewhat of a small fight card this week in the MMA world, in the UFC. How the fight card survived, I don't know. I think by the time it kicked off, there had been 3 fights pulled from the card. If I'm not, maybe 4. You know, I think I said it last week. There was supposed to be the TJ and Corey Sandhagen. Can't get that right. Yeah. And TJ had to pull out due to headbutting training or something, and then we had the Cowboy fight pulled. Obviously, Cowboy fought on the card in the end, but he was supposed to fight Diego Sanchez. And then we had last minute, I think, Angela Hill and Michelle, Ribas. What's her first name? Anyway, I got her surname. Ribas from Brazil. I believe she got COVID. So, yeah, how this card survived, I don't know. But what I will say is, even for me, who's, a big MMA fan, it kind of slipped under the radar a bit, because in the end, it was actually a really good card. It's just there was so many fights pulled. I think a lot of people took their attention off it. Now, not the greatest card ever, but I mean, it was still a lot better than we thought when it actually came to fruition. But before we get into the MMA, let's talk about the small matter of that other shitty sport. Just joking. Boxing. So I actually watched some boxing this week. For those of you that pay attention to the page, I don't really watch boxing, but I couldn't avoid this fight, and I'm glad I did watch it. So I'm not going to break down the boxing card at all. I'm going to talk about the main event. That's unfortunately all I watch. As I said a million times, if you're here for boxing breakdowns, you're going to be slightly disappointed. I don't really break down boxing fights because I don't watch them. But I did, as I said, I watched this main event. So we'll get into it a little bit. First off, for all the shitting on boxing that I tend to do, I'm going to do a little bit here as well. But all in all, this was actually a really good fight. I thoroughly enjoyed the fight. I don't know, some of the things with boxing I don't like. I'll get into it in a few minutes. The commentators, I fucking hate the boxing commentators. They drive me mental. And the build-up, the big build-up with the national anthem, the big long walk-ins, all that. Canelo had a band playing as he was walking out. I just think that's all a bit too much. But maybe I'm just used to the MMA side of things, where fights are kind of, you get through them pretty quick, which I like. I mean, but for me, a boxing card or an MMA card as well, they're so long. I spend it's like a Sunday afternoon over here when I'm watching them. Here you're talking, it's most of your day. Especially I need to try and get content for the podcast, so I watch the prelims and the whole lot, and it's pretty much a whole day. But if they start delaying fights with, trying to squeeze in ads wherever they can, and then they've got fucking these bands playing, I don't know, it's too much for me. But again, I'm just used to the MMA side of things. That's probably why I can't really get into boxing. But anyway, with all that being said, look, don't fucking shoot me now for some of the things I'm going to say here. I don't pay attention to a lot of the boxing. I know who both of these guys are, of course. Canelo's like, it's hard not to know who he is. And I've followed Billy Joe Saunders through Tyson Fury and a lot of that, and a lot of the shit he puts up online. It's hard not to be entertained by him. But I did hear a lot of people, including friends of mine, who said if anybody was going to kind of pose a problem for Canelo, might be Billy Joe Saunders. And me not following it, of course I was up in the air, not sure. I figured Canelo was going to win because he's the GOAT, or one of the GOATs or whatever. But the point I'm making, the point I get into, is this was actually a really enjoyable fight. Back and forth. It was kind of, it looked like a very quiet first round. And then I think, Saunders kind of started to stamp his mark on it. Looked like he might actually start to cause an upset. And then my favourite part of the whole fight was when, I think it was round 7, maybe the end of round 7, or possibly, the end of round 7, I believe, where Canelo was kind of starting to come back into the fight and he was getting the crowd going and all that. Man, I was pumped watching that part because, I got to kind of get a glimpse of why Canelo is who he is, because he did look like Saunders was kind of starting to get the momentum shift. And it was really cool to see Canelo get the crowd going, and of course eventually stop Saunders. The little bit of shitting I'm going to do on this is, obviously Saunders didn't come out. People say he quit on the stool, which I hate when the commentators are saying that. That's the thing I don't like about boxing, is there's a lot of shitting on it. And some of these guys are ex-boxers. Like, why? I don't know why they do that. For me, I don't think it's good for the sport. But they're shitting on that. Now, some of them did. I'll be honest, I don't know who was who because I don't know a lot of the boxing commentators. But sorry, my fucking allergies are annoying me. But there was a lot of kind of shitting on him. Oh, he quit on the stool, and he didn't want to come out because he knew Canelo was taking over. Like, to me, his eye looked bad. And one thing you always know, I see it in MMA all the time, is when it's like here, and when they're in that much pain, you always talk about it's the orbital bone, like basically the eye socket, and like it's super dangerous when that gets broken. And from what I hear, it's unbelievably painful, and it's a risk to your eyesight. So, had he come out and got the piss beaten out of him for the last, 4 rounds left, people would have been saying, his corner should have fucking threw in the towel. If they did the right thing, I think it saved him. And listen, like I was saying last week about the disqualification fight in the MMA, like that you got to give these fighters the benefit of the doubt. They're doing this all their lives. They're not going to quit that easy. I don't think it was easy for him to quit. You could see he was visibly upset. And I don't know for sure they're saying that, you never know the truth until it properly comes out, but some pages are saying that it was a broken eye socket, that the orbital bone was shattered, like, and it was a fucking heavy uppercut. So I just, I think give him the benefit of the doubt. He was making a fight of it at least. And it was a clean uppercut. Christ, was it clean. And it looked like to me anyway that Canelo was probably going to take over the fight from there. He just seemed to get his whatever second, third win, whatever you want to call it. But a fun fight. I had to mention it because like I do a lot of shitting on boxing, like I did a little bit here now. But no, it was an enjoyable fight. Both guys, it was nice to see a fight made of it. Again, didn't watch any of the rest of the card, and to tell you the truth, I don't give a fuck about the rest of the card, so I'm not even going to look into it. But yeah, fun fight. I don't know what's going to happen next. Will they give him the rematch? Probably not, I'd say. I know they're talking about some other Brit that he's got to fight. I don't know. Sorry guys, I don't watch boxing, and I've enough. I'm up to my ears in MMA, so I'm not going to start getting into boxing as well. Following football and MMA is hard enough. But it was a fun fight. I could see, it was just fun to watch. It was cool to see the bit of chess that was playing out between the two of them. And a bit of respect to Billy Joe Saunders as well. I think it's again, I think boxing is an awful problem with that, where they shit on guys. It's very similar to It reminds me of that guy I'm always talking about, Stephen A. Smith, who I believe it's ESPN he works for, where they do that thing and they're shitting on these sports stars. Like, I just don't like it. I think be respectful, be critical, but be respectful. Yeah, that's just my opinion on it anyway. It's probably not going to change. But yeah, fun fight. As I said, I thoroughly enjoyed it. I was getting really into it. Yeah, very fun fight. Moving on to the MMA side of things. So as I said earlier, it was somewhat of a small card, but somewhat of a kind of flew under the radar sort of card. It was it wasn't bad in the end. There was some really good fights. So, as I said, getting into the MMA side of things, go right through the card here. It's still like headlined as Sandhagen versus Dillashaw. It's one thing I gotta say is the UFC are a little bit slow on updating their, not even slow, but just they're a little careless sometimes with their website. I think I said it on last week's podcast that they hadn't even shown this actual fight card. Now I know obviously they had a lot of trouble with it, but I mean, not all the fights fell apart, so I don't know why they didn't show some of them, but anyway. As here, as I said, it's still headlined as Sandhagen versus Dillashaw. But I'm going to start from the main card. As I said, not the biggest card ever, so but some fun fights on it. So just looking at my notes here. So yeah, Phil Hawes versus Kyle Dawkins, which was a reasonably good fight. Phil Hawes looked good. His striking looked really good. It was I believe Kyle Dawkins has a heavyweight brother in the UFC, if I'm not wrong. Chris Dawkins, I think so. But yeah, that was a pretty entertaining fight, pretty back and forth. But I think Phil Hall's striking kind of took over. He pretty much, he landed some heavy shots, and there was parts where Kyle Dawkins was, lucky enough to survive. And Phil Hall's got rocked at one point as well, but it was pretty back and forth. A reasonably good fight. Good win in the end for Phil Hawes, and he looks to be improving big time with his striking. And then this was a really good fight. Probably, yeah, it would have been my favourite fight of the night, which was Carlos Diego Ferreira versus Gregor Gillespie. I mean, what a fun fight. I mean, this is one of those fights where, me as well, like I'm a more of a striking fan. I love MMA, obviously. I love when it's mixed up, and I love when you have a bit of everything. But you can have these, which you'll actually hear in the next fight, but you can have these fights that it's just lay and pray, where they're not really doing much with their grappling. But if ever you wanted to see an example of where the fun side of grappling is in MMA, you watch a fight like this, Ferreira versus Gillespie, because the pressure and the pace that both guys were putting on. In particular, it was being led by Gillespie, but Ferreira as well was basically, Gillespie is known as a heavy grappler, a wrestler with great cardio. And Ferreira's a mixed bag. He's got good jiu-jitsu, but he's mainly a striker. And this fight was just, the pace of that first round was absolutely insane. Ferreira kept defending the takedowns, kept getting up, and Gillespie would keep going after him, and the scrambles. Again, this is where the grappling is fun. When you have guys who are fighting it off, another guy who's trying to force it over and back, and you see these scrambles over and over, and just wearing down the gas tank. It was insane. There was a lot of fun things about this fight. Just the constant scrambles, and Gillespie, who is known for his cardio. I'd said it before. Who were we talking about last week? Oh, Dvalishvili, the Georgian guy, where he used his cardio as a weapon. And Gillespie is another one of those guys. He's mostly his wrestling, but his cardio is part of his arsenal. The same, we're going to talk about Neal Magny later, an even bigger example. But just completely putting the pressure on. And at the end of that first round, now Gillespie has not fought since, I believe it's 2019. So that's that's a big layoff. And to come into this fight, then of course your cardio is probably never going to be. It's going to be the same, but you may have a bigger adrenaline dump considering you've been out of the cage in a while, getting that familiar feeling. And by the end of the first round, he got up and he looked wobbly. He looked like his legs were just gone. And I thought that was it. I thought he was done. And he came out then in the second round, still looking a little, he was taking some shots here or there. Again, though, put the pressure on Ferreira. And in the second round, Ferreira just looked like in the first round, he was much springier. He was fighting things off a lot easier, should I say. There was more of a fight to him. The second round, he just looked a little bit less. There's less in the gas tank, and that's where Gillespie finally got control in the grappling. And, he eventually broke Ferreira, which was interesting to see, considering Gillespie completely emptied his own tank. And he did, he eventually just controlled him and won via TKO. But it was interesting to see. And then in the interview, DC, I believe, interviewed him afterwards, and he said that he's got to basically tire himself to make people tired, and that's what he does. And it was interesting. He said when he went back to the corner and he felt like shit, he said he felt so tired, but he said he knew that he was more tired, which again, it's cardio is such a, you see how important cardio is in these fights and how much of a weapon it is. He's a motherfucker to fight, that guy, I would say. I know he was due to fight Brad Riddell, which would have been an interesting fight to see, but I would imagine there's not too many people going to be lining up to fight that guy. I'd say he's a fucking nightmare to fight. Obviously he suffered a knockout to shit. Why can't I think of this? The Motown phenom, Kevin Lee. Yes, my brain is working sometimes. Anyway, he suffered that knockout to Kevin Lee, but Kevin Lee's a good fighter, but yeah, there's not going to be too many queuing up to fight Gregor Gillespie. That's like a tough dude to fight. And but again, like the lightweight division, there is some interesting fights from top to bottom for him as well. So looking forward to seeing his next fight. That was insane, just to see how much he pushed his own cardio to eventually break Ferreira, because Ferreira was in that fight and he was causing them problems as well. But really fun fight, considering it only went the two rounds, but it was still very, very fun. Great fight, insane cardio again. But like I was saying with the where grappling can become boring, in this next fight, which is Morris Green versus Marcus Rogerio de Lima, there's a number of little things I kind of want to give out about this here. Is de Lima was doing a lot of forcing the grappling side of things, but Maurice Green, his striking was brutally poor. Just the way, I believe someone in the commentary said it as well, but he kept like rushing in, like every punch he would throw, he was throwing his body behind it off balance, and made it so easy for, it's like he was real angry, trying to completely take de Lima's head off. And Green, I'm not 100% what the reach was, but to me he looked much longer. Like his arms looked much longer, and I thought, if he worked his jab, if he, worked on throwing nice 1-2s down the pipe, but he kept doing this weird thing where, as he would throw his, I believe it was his right hand, he would step with it like he was switching stances. But the problem was, as he would do that, his legs would come together. So de Lima, it made it much easier for him to take him down. But he did that like every time he was taken down. That was why he was taken down. Whereas if he kept his legs open, obviously it was easier to fight out. I don't know why he kept doing that, whether there was a reason for it, I don't know, but it just looked like poor striking. Every time he would step in with that, throw it, step the right leg, then both of his legs are together, so he's squared up, which makes you a perfect target to take down, because you've no base to defend it. And then he'd be on his back and he accepted it. There's another thing I want to say actually, which I really like, is Herb Dean, the ref. I've noticed a lot lately that he doesn't stand guys up that quick anymore, which I do like, because I think when a fighter works that hard to get you down, now de Lima was fucking delaying, he wasn't doing a whole lot with it. Yeah, no, like de Lima would get him down, not doing a whole lot, just enough to keep himself busy touching him. But there was a couple of, even I noticed, there was a couple of instances where he could have got full mount and worked a little harder to get a finish. Didn't have any interest in doing it. But I do like the fact that Herb Dean doesn't, because a lot of guys, which I think is what Green was doing, Green had real long legs, which you could use to, to push off at de Lima's hips or something. But he just kept, closing his guard around de Lima and waiting, holding him in close, hoping Herb Dean would stand him up. And that's why I like that Herb Dean didn't stand him up. Now he did at one point towards, I believe it was later in the fight, give De Lima a couple of warnings for not doing much, telling him to work. But Green, like, I don't like when guys just do that. It helps, I know, when strikers are there that the ref is willing to stand them up, but you got to work for it. I like to see it if a guy is at least working hard to get up. Then he can complain to the ref when the other guy's not. But Green wasn't doing anything. He lay there, kept his guard closed, didn't even try to get his legs on De Lima's hips or anything like that. Yeah, and I said Herb Dean allowed it to work because he makes the fighters have to try and work out of it themselves, which I do like. That's what it's all about. Improving your game, finding a way out of these scrambles. Like I said in the earlier fight with Ferreira, I mean, such a contrasting difference, because Ferreira was not accepting the takedown, whereas Green not only was making it easy to be taken down, but then was accepting it too and staying there. I actually don't, throughout the entire fight, I don't remember once where Green got up, or even, I know towards the end of the fight he made a slight attempt to get up. Not enough for me. I like Maurice Green. I watched him when he was on The Ultimate Fighter. He's kind of a fun, strange character. Like, his nickname is the Crochet Master or the Crochet Boss, something like that, because that's what he does. He knits, and it's different. It's fun. He's a bit of an out there character, but extremely poor performance. Like, I don't want to be shitting on him, but it's so bad. Like, so many times he just leaped in with strikes and made it so easy for De Lima to take him down. There was a moment at the end of, I think it was round 2, where De Lima landed a late shot after the bell and they were complaining or whatever. It was late, but it wasn't that bad. He was saying that Green had his fingers in his eyes as well, and then when Herb Dean went and spoke to somebody, I don't know, was it one of his assistants anyway, I think he'd heard then that he was putting his fingers in his eyes as well, so that was it. But I mean, all in all, that was a poor fight. Yeah, Green, I think big improvements needed, because that was not by any means, there wasn't much of a fight out of him, just poor. And I mean, he works with Greg Jackson, who was one of the best coaches in the game, so quite surprised. But yeah, moving on, we had God, this was so not confusing, but for anyone that watched this fight, it was Neal Magny versus Jeff Neal. And when the commentators were talking about either fighter, they'd keep using the name Neal, so you never knew which one they were talking about, and even they were getting confused on the desk as well. Yeah, so the thing about this fight, which I was going to say earlier, when we were talking about using your cardio as a weapon, Neal Magny is probably the best at doing that. I can't think of anyone else right now, but I know I always mention like the Valishvili and these guys, but they have more to their game. I think Neal Magny is probably the best example of someone who uses their cardio as a weapon. He just knows, yeah, he knows it's a weapon. That's kind of how I want to say that. He knows that he can wear on your gas tank much quicker than you can wear on his. Now, he can be kind of boring. I don't think he's boring, but I can understand why people look, because he just doesn't, Neal Magny doesn't pose much of a power threat, or like, he has a pretty good arsenal, but I mean, not a lot of power in his shots. But I enjoy watching him because you get to see how he uses the cardio. Now, Jeff Neal, who is a powerful dude, has got a left hook from hell, or is it a right? No, it's a left hook, I believe. And you can see that's kind of what he was trying to do throughout the fight, was take Magny's head off, which is what he does. And yeah, you see that it was. You just see, as I said, I love to watch Neal Magny because he just wears on you. He's so smart. He'll keep touching you with jabs, nothing majorly powerful. Keep touching you, and then as Jeff Neal would come in to try and get a strike, he would clinch up. Magny would pull him into his clinch and just wear on him, just hold him, maybe just turn him into the cage, just lean on him, and that was repeated throughout the whole fight. And eventually you could see, like, the difference with, it was cool to see the difference with Jeff Neal is that he would come in, throw a combination, back out, take a deep breath, reset, which is common for a lot of fighters. Magny was just constantly there, touching him, bang, in his face, moving, touching him. Jeff Neal would come in, clinch up, and just wear on him, completely wear on him. Now, Jeff Neal's cardio held up somewhat, but you could just see he still wasn't up to the pace that Neal Magny was. So, yeah, another good win from Neal Magny, and he's another one of these guys who, my opinion, he's never going to be champ. I just don't think he is. That's just my honest opinion. I don't think he's ever going to be champ. But he he poses a threat to guys. He's one of those guys that is, again, a fucker to fight because he's got that insane cardio. He's going to be in your face, so you're going to have to put him away. You know, you're not going to tire him out. His grappling side of things has always been an issue in terms of, like, when he comes up against a good jiu-jitsu player or grappler, like wrestler or whatever it may be. But again, fun fight, and goes back to that point I keep making, the cardio as a weapon. It's such a big part of someone's game. But yeah, moving on to the co-main, which was Donald Cowboy Cerrone versus Alex Morono. Sorry, let me check my... Yeah, so obviously Cowboy was supposed to fight Diego Sanchez, and obviously we know the news with all of that, it fell apart and all that. I would have preferred to see that fight because I don't like Cowboy fighting these young up and coming guys. I believe obviously this fight ended by, you know, TKO. Morono landed a heavy right hand and just, he never actually knocked Cowboy out, but he was in trouble, and there was a good stoppage by the ref. I believe it was wasn't Herb Dean. Shit, I can't remember which ref it was. The English guy, I think. The name is eluding me at the moment, but anyway, a good stoppage. But yeah, Morono is, as I said, he's been in the game a little longer. I wouldn't really want to say he's up and coming, but I just don't like to see Cowboy fighting these guys. I don't want to start calling for another fighter to retire, but I just think if Cowboy's not going to be fighting guys on his level, and what I mean by on his level, like Cowboy in his prime is much better than what Alex Morono is. That's my honest opinion. But I think Cowboy should be fighting guys like your Diego Sanchez, your Matt Brown. I know he fought Matt Brown already, but you know what I'm saying, these kind of guys. I know he's talking about wanting to go down to 155. I think, yeah, I'd like to see Cowboy either, like I said, just fight these legends, other legends like him or other guys who've been in the game a long time. These fun fights, because I'd be lying if I said I don't enjoy watching the build up to Cowboy's fights and just watching Cowboy in general. But I don't want to see him getting any more beatings. He's fought a long time, he's been in some wars, and he's still one of those guys who can win one, lose two, you know, that's the way he is. But if these are the kind of fights we're going to set up, and especially when Cowboy is not a guy to say no. So I don't know whether the UFC are willing to line up these fights for him, or whether they're going to keep handing him these up and coming guys. So yeah, my thing would be is I would be happy enough to see him maybe, if not retire, put a date on it. You know, put a date on it. Maybe have one or two more fights. Again, let it be with guys that are your age, guys that are in the game as long as you are. I hate to say that because he's such an admirable character. I think he's such a fun guy. He's that mix of total respect with complete madness. Yeah, he's an absolute legend of the sport. He's one of those guys who, if I had the choice, I think I would wish he had won a title. You know, he's someone, if I could give a title to, it would have been Cowboy Cerrone. Can't think of anyone else right now off the top of my head. But yeah, I just think an amazing ambassador to the sport and a fun guy, and yeah, I think it's time to put a date on his career, definitely. Which he probably, like, knowing him, he probably won't. But yeah, fighting these up and coming guys is no good for him, and he's gonna meet somebody who's gonna eventually put him away. The one I do have a critique on the fight, which the commentators did say too. His left hand, Cowboy's left hand, very low all the time, very very low. It's the way he fights, and not a lot of head movement, because he has that old, I say old, like, but that Muay Thai style where it's not a lot of bounce, not a lot of movement. It's that, because every shot is hard, every shot has got power with it, and it works for him a lot of the time. But the thing is, you get these guys, because you could see Morono was timing his right hand, was timing the right hand to where Cowboy's guard might be down, and he did catch him clean with the right hand, and that was pretty much what put a stamp on the finish. Good win by Alex Morono, and you know, good respect. He was respectful to Cowboy afterwards. But yeah, I kind of would like to see maybe Cowboy putting a date on the end of his career. it's a shame to say, because again, he's one of those guys that when he's finished, we're gonna look back and say, God, wasn't he so much fun? You know, same with Diego Sanchez, who I know Diego was in the news for a lot of bad things recently, which I'm trying not to talk about, but I am going to talk about briefly. I'll finish out the card first, and we'll get on Diego Sanchez. But yeah, Cowboy is a guy who will miss when he's gone, but at the same time, you want to be able to see him live a happy life when he retires. And I would imagine that guy cannot be... I don't know, will he do a podcast or will he work with the UFC when he retires, but surely he's not going to be short of job opportunities. I don't know, but I would be surprised. I mean, you could get him on anywhere. He's fun to talk to. Just to host an event at Cowboy would be hilarious, whatever you want him to do. But he is a fun guy, definitely, and, I'd like to see him put a stamp on it. But credit to Alex Moreno for a good win. We'll see what happens. Cowboy has made a statement. I read it. It was a tweet or something basically saying that he wasn't happy with how it finished, and he didn't really talk about retirement, but he kind of said that he knows people are going to be calling for it and he's not sure what he wants to do. He doesn't feel like he wants to retire, but I don't think that man will ever feel like it. Or at least it will probably take a heavy knockout or something like that. It'll take a big moment for him to do that, which will probably not be a good moment. But yeah. Moving on to the main event. So the main event was Marina Rodriguez versus Michelle Waterson. This again was a fun fight. I don't have any critiques of Waterson, obviously who lost the fight in the end, but the one thing I will say was it was even-ish in terms of Waterson's technique, which is always great. One thing I found funny was Cruz and DC talking about how Michelle Waterson throws her legs, throws her kicks the same way someone would throw their hands, which is so true. I mean, it's so easy for her to throw these side kicks super fast, these spinning kicks, just her dexterity is insane. That's just from years of fighting. But it was a fun fight. Rodriguez's power is what made the difference, in my opinion. She just seemed to, you always notice that Michelle Waterson, her cardio is really good, but the power of Marina Rodriguez kind of wore on the gas tank of Michelle Waterson. And it didn't completely tire her out. Yeah, the fight was pretty much going Marina Rodriguez's way, just in terms of, as I said, the power. It didn't completely wear down Waterson's gas tank, but it just slowed her down that little bit. And it's just Waterson was in the fight, but just the power difference is, for me, that's what made the difference. And Rodriguez was willing to take 2 shots to give one, and that one would make the difference. Waterson was doing a little bit of damage to Rodriguez's leg. I wish she kind of stuck to that a little more, because she hit her with a heavy leg kick at one point and didn't necessarily wobble her, but I just think it was there to do more damage too. But towards the end of the fight, you could see Rodriguez taking over. Now I believe it was the 4th round. I believe it was the 4th round where Waterson took Rodriguez down, and she controlled her, and she looked like she could have done a little bit of damage had she a little more time. And then the takedown just wasn't there in the 5th round, and the fight was over by then. But it was a fun over and back fight. It's just, as I said, the power. It was power versus technique. Waterson was landing some really good shots, but Rodriguez could take it and then come forward to give her one shot, which was a little more powerful. But yeah, fun fight. Waterson seems to always be involved in these fun fights, but Rodriguez is slowly getting herself up there. She KO'd Amanda Hebas. There's her first name, Amanda Hebas, in her last fight, I believe, which was shock of the card. At the time, everyone had picked Amanda Hebas to win that fight easily. So yeah, Rodriguez is making a bit of a name for herself, and she's a big woman too. She's big for that weight class and powerful. So it'll be interesting to see who she might get next. But yeah, listen, fun fight all round, fun card all round. But yeah, that's it. That's all my notes. We'll quickly look ahead to next week. which is a big card. Please let nobody fall out of this one. So, to run through the card for everybody, we'll go with I'll go right down through the early prelims. So we have Christos Giagos versus Joel Alvarez. Tucker Lutz, who the hell is that guy? Versus Kevin Aguilar. Gina, see, this is what I'm talking about. We got Gina Mazzani versus blank. Like, whoever this person is that she's supposed to be fighting, they have their record up. 9-3. But no picture, no name. So, like, what's that about? But anyway, Jordan Wright versus Jamie Pickett. That's the early prelims. Then we go to the prelims. And we got Andrea Lee versus Antonina Shevchenko. That's a good fight. Then we have Lando Venata versus Mike Grundy. I like Lando Venata, he's always fun. Got Matt Chanel versus Rogerio Bontorin. That's a fun fight too. Jacare Ronaldo Souza versus Andre Muniz. Muniz, the new guy. Jacare still doing the thing. Then moving to the main card. Kicking off with a fucking great fight. Shane Burgos versus Edson Barboza in featherweight. Which is interesting to see Barboza still sticking around. Fun fight. Oh, that's going to be a great fight. Then you have Caitlin Chukagian versus Vivian Araujo. Jack Hermanson versus Edmund Shabazian. Fun fight. Then we got fucking hell. We got Tony Ferguson versus Benil Dariush. Charles Oliveira versus Michael Chandler. What a card. I really hope that stays and doesn't fall apart like some of the other fucking cards lately. But yeah, that's a fun one. Really can't wait to see that. Very quickly, I just can't avoid talking about this fucker, but I need to do it because I spent so much time giving out last week. There's like more of these videos emerging of Diego Sanchez and his coach Joshua Fabia. I'm not even going to spend much time shitting on. I might spend a little bit of time shitting on him. There's Joshua Fabia, who's I'm really starting to dislike this guy. Just these new videos coming out. For anyone that hasn't seen them, they're anywhere. Just type it in on Google or fucking wherever. Of Diego hanging upside down, while Joshua Fabia basically kicks him and hits him hard, but just hits him, like, slapping him, kind of slightly punching him, kicking him to the body. And then there's a clip of Fabio saying in an interview that you need to teach these fighters to get hit because sometimes they get hit and they get shocked. That statement alone is so much worse than the video, because how the fuck do you have to teach Diego Sanchez to get hit? He's 16. Let this sink in. He is 16 years in the UFC. Not fighting. He's 16 years in the UFC alone. But he's got to be taught how to get hit. I mean, it's absolutely insane. If anybody needs to be taught, like, above all people, that man does not need to be taught how to get hit. It's absolute insanity. If this was a movie, you wouldn't believe anybody would be stupid enough to allow it happen. As much as I gave out last week, now, I mean this genuinely, it's not a joke. I actually fear for Diego Sanchez. I'm actually worried that there's something really going on. That either Diego has some serious issues after his career of fighting. I'm not really, because I don't like to shit on guys like this, but I have to just acknowledge this. Either Diego has some CTE issues, something, or else this guy is after warping his mind, because I do not know how Diego Sanchez is allowing this to happen, or how he is believing in this guy. But I do hope, and it's kind of why I'm saying this, I don't know, I hope if there's enough of these videos out there, it'll work. I do hope somebody involved in the UFC, somebody involved somewhere, whether it's Diego's family, whatever it may be, that somebody gets involved, because there's something not good at this story. Doesn't have a good ending unless something changes, in my opinion. Do you know who this Fabio guy reminds me of? I'm not sure if people would know this story, but there's a movie and everything about it. The movie Foxcatcher. I gotta find out the guy's name. It's DuPont, isn't it? Something. But Foxcatcher was basically it's a true story. It's about these two wrestlers, the Schultz brothers, Mark Schultz and Dave Schultz, I believe is their names. Top class wrestlers in their day. Both competed in the Olympics, but I believe it was the older brother, Dave Schultz, who was the better of the two. I think he was just more disciplined. You know, if you go by the movie, one was more disciplined. But anyway, John DuPont. So the story I'm saying is Foxcatcher. Go check it out. It's I believe the team were called Foxcatcher or something like that. But anyway, the story is Dave and Mark Schultz were invited to this camp with John DuPont, who was this super rich fucking guy. I don't know, his family owned heaps of different things, but anyway, he brought them out, brought their team out there, built this big training area, you know, sponsors them and everything. But he was a fucking weirdo. Liked to get involved in the training, liked to kind of almost become some form of a coach. Basically getting too involved. That's what the story says. And eventually he shot Dave Schultz, who was kind of the captain of the wrestling team. Shot and killed him. And people believed that he did it out of total jealousy, because they didn't like that Dave was kind of the captain, that people looked up to him. And I'm going about this in a weird way, but the point I'm making is Joshua Fabio reminds me of this John DuPont guy, that he's a fucking weirdo trying to get involved in something he has no idea about, trying to get famous, trying to live through someone else because he doesn't have the ability or the talent to do what Diego's doing. But again, my whole point of all of this is I really think Diego needs help. I do believe that Diego Sanchez needs help big time. Yeah, it's a little scary, to be honest, that some of the videos now that are coming out, and of course now they're attacking Dana White and saying some things about, you know, him and Sean Shelby supposedly sleeping with female fighters. Whether that's true or not, I've heard that before anyway, but like, whether it's true or not, it's not good for Diego, because you don't want to fuck with the UFC. Like, they're famous for, not famous for, but they're known, like the UFC is known for having ruthless lawyers. You know, that if they have to control the fucking, you know, whatever it is, 400 to 500 fighters. You know, suppose you don't want to fuck them over in any lawsuits or anything like that, because you will not win. And yeah, I'm going to finish on this. I would like to see, you know, somebody around Diego, somebody in the UFC, whatever it may be, check in on him, get him help, because I'm telling you that this story doesn't sound like it's going to have a good ending. I just don't like the way it's going. But yeah, let's hope not. Let's hope it's not going to go the way I'm thinking. But yeah, I just hope, you know, I am going to do plenty more shitting on that fucking Joshua Fabio prick, but I'm not going to do much more shitting on Diego Sanchez, because the truth is I am definitely a little worried about the guy. Anyway, that's enough shitting on him. Enough talking shit, should I say. Check out that movie Foxcatcher for anyone that hasn't seen it. Actually, it's a good movie. Bit fucked up, but you get my reference if you see that movie, or if you've already seen it. But I appreciate you watching, guys. Love every one of you fuckers. Please keep supporting the channel. Plenty more stuff to come. As I say a million times, I've got some really cool ideas trying to work out. I'm trying to work them out, and hopefully they'll come to fruition. But please keep supporting, keep liking, and definitely subscribe if you haven't done already. Thank you, guys. Go grab that day. Peace.